There is a weight that lingers in the minds of many, a silent burden that is often misunderstood. Depression is not simply sadness, it is an abyss that distorts time, meaning, and even the self. But what if I told you that depression has been examined for centuries, not just by modern psychology, but by some of the greatest philosophical and spiritual minds in history? Today we will explore depression not as a personal failure, but as a fundamental challenge of existence. Through the lens of Buddhism, existential philosophy, and psychological insight, we will uncover how one can navigate this darkness and find a way forward. The nature of depression, the abyss of meaninglessness. What is depression? The American Psychological Association defines it as a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. But ancient wisdom sees it differently. Existential philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and Albert Camus viewed suffering as an unavoidable aspect of life. Depression, in this view, is not a flaw but a confrontation with the absurdity of existence itself. A person experiencing depression often feels as though they have been cast into an abyss, alone, detached from the world. But could this abyss be something more? A call to redefine oneself? Buddhism and the acceptance of suffering. Buddhism teaches that suffering, dukkha, is an inherent part of life. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, realized that all human beings suffer due to their attachment to transient things. Depression, in this sense, is intensified by our resistance to suffering. We mourn the loss of happiness, and in doing so, deepen our pain. But the Buddha proposed a path to liberation, the Four Noble Truths. The first is to accept suffering. Instead of resisting depression, what if we observed it without judgment? Instead of being consumed by it, what if we watched it like passing clouds in the sky? This is the practice of mindfulness, to sit with one's thoughts without being overwhelmed, to see sadness not as an enemy, but as a visitor that, like all things, will eventually leave. Nietzsche and the will to power. Friedrich Nietzsche, a man deeply familiar with despair, did not seek to escape suffering. He believed in the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. Instead of resisting our struggles, Nietzsche urged us to embrace them, to transform pain into power. Depression often whispers that nothing matters. Nietzsche would argue, good. If nothing matters, then you are free. Free to create your own meaning. History is filled with those who suffered yet created. Van Gogh, Dostoevsky, Nietzsche himself. Depression does not have to be a prison. It can be a forge. Viktor Frankl and the search for meaning. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, understood suffering in its purest form. In the concentration camps, he observed something remarkable. Those who survived were not necessarily the strongest, but those who had a reason to endure. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. A person suffering from depression may feel powerless, but Frankl suggests that even in the deepest suffering, we have the power to assign meaning. Even in the darkest night, one can light a candle." Psychological perspectives, CBT and the power of thought. Modern psychology has studied depression extensively. One of the most effective treatments is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, developed by Aaron Beck. CBT teaches that our thoughts shape our emotions. Depression often warps reality, convincing us that we are worthless, hopeless, or doomed. But these are thoughts, not truths. What if we challenge these thoughts? What if, instead of accepting "I am worthless," we asked, "Is that really true?" Psychologists have found that by altering our perception, we can alter our reality. Our mind, once our enemy, can become our greatest ally. The path forward. Practical steps. So how does one manage depression? 1. Mindfulness and meditation. Practicing non-judgmental awareness of thoughts, as Buddhism teaches. 2. Embracing suffering, accepting pain as part of life, as Nietzsche and the Stoics suggest. 3. Creating meaning, finding purpose, as Viktor Frankl emphasizes. 4. Challenging negative thoughts, using psychological tools to reshape perception. 5. Physical and social connection. Exercise, nutrition, and community play vital roles in mental health. Depression is not a weakness. It is not a personal failing. It is a confrontation with the depths of existence, and in that confrontation, there is power. The greatest thinkers, the most brilliant minds, have walked this path before, and if they found a way forward, so can you. You are not alone in your suffering, and though the road may be difficult, there is always a way forward. Accept suffering, create meaning, reshape your thoughts, and take one small step at a time. Because even in the darkest night, the stars still shine. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche.